Welcome to the Excel Purpose Show with Karms Fung. Today we have Tony J. Selimi, life strategist and business coach, and multiple book authors. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to be doing this. Like, I have so many questions for you, especially because you've written multiple books, and I'm like still struggling to write my first one. But before we dive into that, congratulations on your new book, Climb Greater Heights.
Thank you so much, Karms. It's such a joy to bring another baby to the world so more people can grow and expand.
How many babies do we have now?
We have 7.
7? Oh my gosh.
7
That's a big
plus
family.
I have 2. Yes, plus I have 2 documentaries, which won over 60 global awards. And
Wow.
also I have few Udemy courses. So there's a lot of babies out there making a difference in the world.
Wow, this is going to be exciting. Okay, let's dive in because I don't know too much about you, but something about you really attracted me to want to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm like, no, there's something about this guy. So we'll just see what comes out. Okay, so
You know what? Energetically, we can attract people without even knowing them.
I believe that. Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
So tell me about your background, because you're living this life like most people dream of, right? Like a lot of people want to release documentary, want to write books, want to get on stages, want to impact life. Like, especially now, the world is really switching to wanting to create impact, and you're like quite a few steps ahead of us. So how did it all begin? How did this happen? Did you do a traditional job to begin with, or was your family in business already?
My family they were restaurateurs and farmers. So I grew up in North Macedonia, back then used to be part of former Yugoslavia. So, I come from a very humble, hardworking family and with great values around work ethics. And also, I was one of the smartest boys when it came to like education, when it came to maths, physics, science. But at the same time, I was struck by an illness at a very young age, which left me hospitalized for 2 years.
Wow.
And during that period, my parents were told I will die. So,
How old were you?
my mother, yes, I was 9 years old.
Whoa. Okay.
So my parents were told, okay, you have 3 days to prepare for a funeral. So, and
No.
going backwards, my parents were pretty much into spirituality. So they had always like people around who were healers and spiritual guide for them. So one of them apparently was there when I was born, and I'm the youngest of the 6 children. And this person healed my brother from epilepsy. And apparently, when I was born, my mother was serving dinner to all the workers in our land, basically in the farm. And apparently, this guy picked me up and he said, "This guy's going to be a masterful healer. He's going to go around the world and he's going to change lives of millions of people." And then my parents bring me from hospital to him in somewhere in Macedonia in the mountains. Say, "Well, your prediction is wrong. He's dying. You helped us with the other son, but this one is dying." Apparently, he laughed. He said, "Leave him here every day, bring him in and out of hospital." 6 months down the line, I started getting better and better and better. And then I became extremely curious how being in one of the top hospitals, they told my parents I can die. And this guy who's never been to school, who lives in a mountain, lives alone, and he harnesses like herbal things and works with the moon, with the sun, and with waters, made me heal and made me better and better by every single day. So I developed this curiosity about the unseen world, the things that they don't teach you at school, and what is it that I can actually combine. So on one hand, I really loved learning around, being in school and learning all these amazing subjects. But at the same time, I was exposed to those spiritual teachers teaching me those healing techniques that for me, it was almost like a child playing with those things, but seeing results.
That is
So
wild.
as I
Before
continued
you
with
dive
this,
in more, were you listening to these conversations? Was it in front of you when you knew of this healer, and did you hear that, oh, there's hope, or what actually went
I
on?
mean,
Were you
back
in the
then
hospital a
I
lot?
wasn't I wasn't conscious when they took me first time to him. It's only
Okay.
later on, like a couple months down the line, then I started, opening my eyes and starting listening, starting hearing his prayers, starting him doing all these ceremonies,
Yeah.
putting his hands and doing healing on different parts of my body and observing him, what he was doing. So for me back then, I did not know the word healer.
Mm-hmm.
It was a man who was doing things that made me feel better. It was just an alternative medical doctor in my head as a child. It's only as I got better when he started to explain to me about herbs, about nature, about all the elements and how we are part of nature, and started to really spark my curiosity, the things that don't teach you at school.
That is wild. Have you gained like a full recovery from your
Yeah,
illness?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I gained full recovery. Within 2 years, I gained full recovery, and there was no at all any, I would say, signs of my illness. And in the people in the medicine, they called it a miracle. And my parents and I knew the different story, but also some of the doctors who were back then involved with my case, they actually, they were just wondering how this miracle happened. So, and then, as I excelled in school, I went into one of the top engineering universities in Zagreb, now Croatia, to continue with my studies, further my study, because I wanted to be one of the best engineers out there. And I wanted to do so many things in the corporate world. And then, just as I finished the first year, the civil war fell upon us. So I was taken from school straight into a Yugoslav army to fight a civil war that deep down despised, which killed a lot of people. And after 14 months being in the most dangerous kind of situations, my life was saved, and I ended up homeless on the streets of London.
Okay. That's that's like wild experience number two. Okay.
I guess now you see why you were attracted for us to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So, me observing ever since the different wars around the world, for me, is very personal because I know what war can do to people. And, that's why I've become this agent about education, about peace, about collaboration and transforming people's lives. Because when we start to heal within, we actually heal the enemy without.
So when you were homeless in London, um, what happened? Did you quickly found job? Did someone help you out? How did you get out of that
Well,
situation?
well, the reality comes is I can, most people cannot imagine what it is like to be taken and saving your life from a civil war, and you end up in a country you don't know nothing about. I couldn't speak English at all. I had no friends. It's only 250 pounds that my mother borrowed from a neighbor because back then the war was still raging in former Yugoslavia. So first 6 months, it wasn't about getting a job. It was about me crying and grieving and trying to cope with the loss and trying to cope with what happened and trying to make sense of how overnight our reality changed.
So, my brain is just trying to catch up. Did you get to London on your own, or did something happen to your family? Is
I mean, during the war, I lost a lot of my family and friends and everything. A war started raging even further after my life was saved. But when I came to London, yes, absolutely alone, and I was put on a one-way flight to London. So, when I came to London in this big metropole
how old
without
were you?
knowing anybody, I was 20.
Yeah, right.
So
Just being an adult. Yeah.
yeah, just being an adult. I mean,
Yeah.
I spent my 21st birthday homeless, crying underneath the bridges of River Thames, with no hope, with nothing in my pocket. I was
How long were
surviving on
you homeless for?
about 6 months.
Wow,
So, it was 4 months, then in and out, trying to find a job and trying to get back into reality and stuff like that. But, I
that's
was
really crazy.
surviving
Like
with slice
like
of bread,
going
and that's
from
it.
going from homeless to where you are now. That's
Yes.
what can
So
you
when
describe to me a little bit about that? Because I've never had that experience of being in that situation. Like
I mean,
was it
it's
just really cold?
horrifying.
Like how did you get
Comes.
blankets?
It's
How do you?
very.
How do you
It's
survive?
very horrifying, and you are simply feeling alone, feeling, desperate.
Yeah.
And not just desperate, it's the fact that you don't really know where to turn, whether to find time to heal and cry. But, a lot of passers-by, they would leave something, but the biggest thing they would leave is books. So after I
Really?
had no more tears left, and after reading all of those books, and using back then, I used to use a dictionary. We didn't have a mobile phones, and I used to use dictionary and go word by word to try translate them, because I
Yeah.
took one of those small dictionaries with me, and trying to translate and trying to learn conversational English being homeless, with people, and then using the books and go sentence by sentence and translate and learn and read. So
Yeah.
eventually, when there was no tears left, I knew I had to get a job out there. So I started really cleaning the streets and, looking any opportunities where I could just be of service, not finding a job. So I started helping the elderly from the supermarkets carrying their bags, and they started, giving me like a pound here, a pound there. From then they invited me to clean their windows, then to clean their gardens, then to do their shopping, then to wash them, then to paint them. And eventually I found a job in an Italian restaurant, and I started working as a dishwasher. I started cleaning a lot of dishes. And then, because I grew up in a restaurant family, so I could run an entire restaurant, no problem. So very quickly I was promoted into a waiter, and then I was promoted into a manager of the restaurant. And then I started getting few more jobs, and pretty much during that period of time, especially in the first couple of years, trying to get some money to go back to school and send money to my family in a war zone, I pretty much enrolled in one of the top universities in here. So I saved enough money to actually be able to pay for my education. And I worked 4 jobs, and I slept about 4 to 5 hours maximum for almost 10 years.
That
So
is
when
insane, man.
So when people, as you said, all the things that I'm doing, actually, it took a lot of sacrifice, a lot of long hours, and I still do work long hours. So one of the things that helped me through all of it is my work ethics, the values, and that kind of pain that I wanted to transform into a purpose.
What's your values? What are you?
Well, number one value is like, for me, it's firstly is integrity. To be in integrity with myself. With my how I treat myself, it's how to treat others. The other one is for sure it's contribution. What is it that all of this pain and all of those insights I can use so I can assist others to go through a journey where they don't have belief, when they don't have hope. Because even today, as you said, most people might see me where I am today. But those who really read my books and follow my work, they will know that I was far more beyond lowest than they can ever be, by the way. It's only a few children. Maybe you can compare me with people in Palestine. It's sort of that kind of destruction
That's
that I
surprising.
started from. So I believe that there's this light within us, and there's this hope that we can follow, and I believe. And also when you wake up to something that is beyond yourself, and you trust that intelligence that created all of us, whether you call it God, whether you call it universe, whatever you may call it, there's something in us that created us which is so intelligent. And when we start listening to that, it's incredible what we can achieve.
A lot of us is looking to be authentic these days in this world that's becoming more and more fake. And I see people wanting to listen to themselves more and following the intuition. What advice would you have for them? Because people have multiple voices in their head and they don't know. And then even when sometimes they have like a sense of, oh, okay, this thing might be the thing I want, but then it's hard for them to separate, okay, what's an intuition versus like the emotion? Because if they want to do something, let's say be a stage speaker, then there's
Mhm.
fear, right? So it's like, is that fear just an emotion thing that's holding them back, or is it an intuition thing they need to push through? How how should they differentiate these?
Well, first and foremost, Karms, it's like we cannot escape the way our body works. Meaning, it's like we can respond in a way like I did. I took all of the pain and turn it into a purpose and to meaningful and impactful work that I do globally. And I followed a path of continuous education.
Mhm.
Or I could have gone the other way around and become a horrible person and revengeful person towards all of those people that actually created harm, not only to me, but to millions of people. So, in life, we always have a choice.
Mhm.
And the greatest part is the fact that instead of actually judging ourselves for those emotional responses, I would always advise people start learning what is it that is hurting you and what is the insight, the other side of that insight. Because in everything in life, we have the two sides, the two coins of every behavior, of every thought, of every belief, at the same time of every emotional response. Because it's not only being able to listen to the negative emotions, we also need to be very careful on the emotions we label as positive and being blinded to the downside of the positive emotion. So I always believe in being able to, in the moment, analyze the wholeness of the experience. And the wholeness of the experience is when those triggered emotional responses, we can go and learn quite a lot. What is it that makes us respond in a way that we respond in that situation? So, the first thing I always, when I ask deeper questions to every client I work, we can go back all the way into the womb of the person when they actually felt that emotion.
Right.
When I do much deeper work, especially the healing work with some of my clients, because they don't require me to build their businesses and make them a lot of wealth or whatever. Some of them require deeper healing. They already done that, but they sacrificed their well-being. So because, I specialized in human behavior and emotional intelligence and cognitive transformation and being a strategist where it looks at the wholeness of your entire life, I go so much deeper than what most of the traditional methodologists or coaches or therapists do. So it's basically, I created those methodologies and I share them through the books. So about being fake, specifically, I wrote the Unfakeable Code. Take back mental and emotional control, lead authentically, and lead freely on your terms. Why? Because in every situation, we do put those masks, and those masks are a response of some kind of fear, of some kind of not feeling safe. And over a period of time, they become the default nature that we show to the world. And as a result of writing this book, also I was asked to write in a book with like a lot of wonderful people, authors from Europe. And in there, I channeled 12 spiritually inspired poems for 12 people who changed my life. That also includes Dr. John DeMartini. I pretty much went into meditation for an hour, and I sensed the individual, in this case, John. And I wrote a poem about how he can actually guide his own life through the poem. And in some cases, I actually used the poem and I coached my client the entire day just using the poem. So basically, it's called Take Off the Mask, Your Soul is Waiting.
I love that.
So, this is coming back into our true authentic self. When we mask a being that lives inside of us that is fully authentic. And it's so powerful that this container that we have, it has no way of actually being able to hold that kind of power. So that's why it's important for us to consistently invest in transforming our being and becoming more and more aligned with our true authentic self and embracing those polarities that we develop from a very young age from not feeling safe.
Yeah. How did you make that switch? So people may not be as worse of a situation that you were in, but a lot of people is in a situation they're not happy with. How did you go
Mhm.
from working at the restaurant to then jumping into this life?
Well,
Was it very
first and
gradual? Did you
foremost,
meet a coach?
Karms,
Mm.
my parents always instilled and believed in education.
Mhm.
So because I was more gifted than the rest of the students, I always had an extra teachers outside of the school. So I always worked with teachers, additional teachers. My parents always invested. Like out of the 6 kids I was the only one who required that. Although that was available to all of my siblings, I'm the only one who took that and invested into that. So the only time that I did not invest in teachers, educators, coaches, therapists, healers, you mentioned it, I've actually hired them and I worked with them, is during the period when I was in the war in former Yugoslavia, and then when first couple of years in London when I was homeless and trying to get my life back. The moment I started working in 3, 4 jobs, I started, looking for other healers, other therapists, and everything else. And I started really working with so many wonderful different people who, in each their own, helped me trying to understand myself and heal my being from all of the pain and all the trauma that I had back then. So it's I've always invested in my growth because I always say you can learn on your own for sure, but the greatest growth is when you have some form of mirror, a teacher, an educator who can truly listen to you. Because normally we don't really listen to ourselves. We can listen to all those negative self-talk, and sometimes we can go on and on and on without even interrupting those thoughts. But the true listening comes from somebody who's already overcome the journey you're trying to overcome. So,
Yes.
in life, no matter where you are, we'll always have somebody who's overcome what you have to overcome. And with those people, we seek them as teachers, as mentors, as educators, as coaches. And then you have people who have not yet arrived where you are. So therefore, those people, they see you as the teacher. So this is an ongoing, ever evolving journey. So sometimes when clients ask me, how long do I need to work with you? And, back in the days when I was working in tech, I used to give this service free to a lot of people, especially to healers and therapists who were helping other people. I just devoted 2 nights a week to help those people who help other people because I already had a great income working in tech. So, and basically, when it comes to really the work that you need to do to really go through that, it's so essential to move away just from self-learning into getting somebody who can assist you in that journey. And then when you're ready, you get to the next person who can get you to the next level. And then when you reach that, you go to the next level because deep down, we are ever evolving beings. We always have some form of voice that we seek to fulfill. So no matter where you are in your life, there's something in there that you want more because you have been born to be more. You're not been born to limit yourself to anything that you currently may be experiencing. So that could be financial, which I think most people around the world struggling around finances and how to really bring the wealth that they need to pay for their bills, for their education, for coaches, for mentors, for their families, for their clothes, for their holidays.
Yeah.
But as you said earlier on, we now have developed this world where we are so distracted that we forgot who we truly are, Karms. So, and that's why for me, it's essential when people say to me, how long do I need to work with you? My question would be back, how far do you want me to take you?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good one.
And then I get exactly this response because they start to think, saying, oh my God, especially the kind of clients I work on are the clients where they've gone through a lot of it, and now they've gone through a lot of training workshop, and now they want more focus, and they want an expert who's specialized to work with them because they know they appreciate more of their time because the time is something none of us can get back. We can work more, we can spend the money, come back and, go through the cycles of I have, I don't have, I have, I don't have, but time will never come back. So people who start really valuing that, valuing themselves, valuing their mission, they go and find the teachers to work with them directly. They don't want a group work anymore. They are ready for greatest breakthroughs in their life. And somebody who gets to know them, because one of the things as beings, we put so many masks that even we can lie to anybody around us. That's how clever those masks are. That doesn't mean that you do it consciously. You could do it from all those protective mechanisms. And the space that I provide in all of my coaching and training, it's a safe place. And very quickly, people like you, they feel like, Tony, I'm attracted to you. Why? Because, I've worked so much on myself that I no longer see the person with an issue. I just see the person on a journey where I can provide the space where they can accelerate that growth that they are seeking, being in their personal life, being through maybe they experiencing some form of physical or mental health issues. Like I've had clients who had OCD and no longer have that. I have clients who suffered with epilepsy, no longer have that. I have clients who suffer with anxiety, with addictions, with depression. And sometimes I take my clients and when I ask them questions, especially people who come to me for health issues or identity crisis, if those people, for instance, going to, taking drugs and I'm not talking only recreational drugs, I'm talking about medical drugs. Sometimes I ask them to bring their medication with them. And for the first time, I make them read what they are taking and the effect of that.
Yeah.
95% of people in the world, they take drugs without ever reading what that drug is about. And I love medicine, and I coach and mentor a lot of doctors to bring their visions and bring more sort of holistic approach to medicine. And one of my clients now, which just published his book that I helped him write about the future of medicine. And because I integrate all of my tech and 30 years of expertise, we wrote a unique book called The Doctor's Future. And we entering an age with AI that most people will feel lost totally of who they are. And how do you go into a future where something is more powerful than you? Something that can do things faster than you can, something that can do multiple tasks that you can't. And the answer is education. The answer is for you to become better and better every single day. So, in this new world of convergence between AI and human intelligence, you can actually stand out as a unique expert with whatever field you want to develop in your life.
So did you, or maybe one of your books actually cover this, but did you
Mhm.
learn a lot from the person that healed you when you were young about the plants and the energy work? Has
Yes, I mean, that started from a very young age, but family and people who knew me from back then, they always say you made people feel calm around you. You wherever somebody was in distress, because I was the youngest one. So for instance, my sisters would always come to me when they were at distress. They wouldn't go to my brother. So they always say you were special from since you were born. You were just this loving child that you wanted to shower people with love, and people were naturally resonating towards you. So even my mother and my dad, when we had those deep conversations, sometimes when I graduated, Karms, it was just after the war stopped in Yugoslavia. So I saved enough money to fly my parents over to be here for the graduation and to be reunited after 9 years of not seeing each other.
oh
And basically, it was such an emotional moment. And it was even the people at university, my professors back then, even when we did the graduation, they actually specifically did a speech about me and how, they compared me with a lot of students who come from a very wealthy background, saying, this guy worked full time and studied full time and never made an excuse to say, give me another day when I had to hand over my assignments, for instance. I always was bringing those, no matter what, I will stay all night long. I will not give excuses. Most people deliver a lot of excuses. So, it's sort of when I brought my parents in here, I had this anger towards my dad. And most of us, we always have some kind of issues with our parents. The reality is our family environment can fuck us up. And excuse my language, but it's the reality most people experience and one I also experience, no matter how good your parents are.
hmm.
Because the world will actually push you into many directions that you don't even know how to react. So I didn't expect wars going to happen into our country. I didn't expect the neighbor becomes an enemy. I didn't expect the people you grew up with and my parents fed, they're going to become an enemy and they try to kill you. You're not ready for those kind of situations. So when my parents, and because my brother was the first son in the family, and in our culture back then, and still it is in some cultures, once the son is born, it's like, oh my God, is the whole universe has come into this world. And, my sisters didn't have that kind of value. So he was spoiled. Anything he would do, he will get. For everything I needed, I had to work very hard to receive. So, deep down, I had this resentment towards my dad, not towards my mom. My mom was always there for me. So, and my dad always worked, but also he taught me so many things. He taught me 3 languages since I was a kid. And he taught me all the skills in the restaurant. So I learned to cook at a very young age. I learned to cook, I learned to surf, I learned to do so many things that helped me later on as an entrepreneur. But you don't think about those things. So after the graduation, I had a frank chat for the first time, being able to talk to my dad as I'm speaking to you, Karms. Because back then we could not say anything to our parents.
Yeah, it's a
You
tough
are
conversation.
taught and you shut up. That's it. You don't respond. And still is in many people
Right.
around the world.
Be
It's still the
respectful
same
to the
culture, by the way.
elderly. Yeah.
Hasn't changed much. The elderly, it goes whatever the elderly says, no
Yeah.
matter if you agree or disagree.
Yeah.
So I said, my mom went to bed, and me and my dad, we lit a candle and we prayed to spirit together. So, and after we did that, and I said to my dad, Dad, I'm dying to ask you this question. And remember, I haven't seen my parents for 10 years. And he said, what? And he went like, I said, why did you always love my brother more?
Ooh, straight
And
for the
I said, no matter what he did, and he did a lot of problems to our family, Karms.
yeah.
I said, how is it that you loved him more and I always had to work for everything? And I could see his eyes tearing. And he lifted his hand and he pointed out 6 fingers and he said, those are my kids. He said, if I cut one of them, do you think it's going to hurt? And I said, of course. And he said, do you think it's going to bleed? I said, of course. Do you think each finger has a specific function? I said, of course. He said, it's not that I loved your brother more. As parents, we focus the energy on the person who needs it more.
Oh
You've
yeah.
always been independent. And as some parents, we always knew, even if you went into Africa, into a desert, you will create a palace in the middle of the desert. But on the other hand, your brother could come to England and could go to Buckingham Palace and he can destroy all of that and turn it into a desert. And that was the closure I needed from my
All the
dad.
bitterness fell away at that point.
Yes, we cried. Everything, absolutely everything diffused went into love. So from that moment until he passed away, we had about 8 years of most incredible father-son relationship that as a child I didn't have. As a child, he was working consistently at Karms. He worked in the restaurants and in the farms. So we only, as children, we contributed apart from my brother. My brother never worked. Me and my sisters, we always took the load. He was like a privileged child. And that's the reality. So, at that moment, it's where I really realized how much love parents give to their children, although we as children have not developed the psychology to actually embody that kind of love in the form they can give it, not in the form we expect it to have it.
Yeah, it's that's a beautiful perspective. Like, yeah, like a lot of people would hold their own perspective their whole life because to have one of those confronting conversation that you did, maybe people just bring that to the grave, right? Like it's just an assumption.
There's a lot of
At
people who
trust.
do not have those conversations. Sometimes when I'm hired to dissolve conflicts in the family, and the reality, those are resentments that go on for years and years, and nobody had the courage to sit down and actually talk mindfully without shouting at each other.
Yeah, because especially when it's been so long too, right? Like yours was
Correct.
like 10 years, right? And a lot of people's probably the same deal. It's just like, well, that's the way it's been. They've had certain assumption about it. How would you advise someone to approach that conversation if they want to be like, oh, I want to get the breakthrough that Tony did?
Well, I mean, I'll share another story, by the way. So, my story of coming out. In our culture, being gay is the worst thing that can happen to you. So, when I started having those conversations and speaking to my sisters and everybody advised me not to tell my parents. But I used to remind my sisters of all their mischieving that they did. And I said, if my parents can hold all of the things that you guys did, I'm sure they can manage this too. you know? So,
Oh
so I
man,
was,
you're dropping
and
that?
yes, I mean, they were making it all about themselves. And I went like,
Wait, so hang
it
on, hang
wasn't
on.
about.
Did all your siblings know apart from your parents, or did you sort of
Not
tell them one
really.
by
I
one?
had to have those conversations later on because
Okay.
I didn't come out till after I was in England, after I was safe, after I graduated. So back then they would literally kill you for being gay. So apart from having enemies of the war, you would have the enemies for simply being different from the rest
Just
of your
being that way.
society. And that
That
also included women who would cheat. And it wasn't just about being gay; it was about anybody who does not conform to what the
too
culture
norm.
and the society wants from you. So,
Right. So
sexuality is just one element of it. There's many other things that, people make like, oh my God, if you don't conform, you are out.
yeah,
So
gotcha.
for me, it wasn't about anybody. For me, I knew deep down, Carms, that I will never feel peaceful if I'm not authentic with my parents and with myself.
Okay, before we dive into how your parents handled that,
Yeah.
how when did you know for yourself?
I mean, back at home, comes, we did not have the word gay. So, nobody would speak about it. There was no any form of education we have today.
Mhm.
So, the only thing you can handle is you silence it and you follow what the crowd does. So,
Yeah.
I dated women and, I even got married. I was
Oh, you
forced to get
did?
married. Yes. And then
Oh,
I
how
had to
long were you married
go
for?
and divorce myself 3 years. And
Did you
this
have
is
kids
where
from that?
no, 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 I
Okay.
did not want to. Because I was
Did
so
she know that?
convinced
Did
that
she know you didn't want kids before you went into the marriage?
no, I mean, we both escaping a situation comes.
Yeah,
She was,
right.
escaping a violent father. I was escaping my identity.
Yeah.
And by this time, I already had conversation with my family, with my sisters, by the way. My dad, I already had that conversation in London after my graduation. And my dad was very liberal. So he went like, you're my son. You just follow your path and you
Yeah.
will inspire a lot of people. And I love you no matter what. But
Uh-huh.
my mom was asleep when we had this conversation. So, and he went like, your mom is more conservative, and there'll come time when she too will understand you. Just, go
So
with the
your
flow.
dad handled the
Better
news,
than my
the
mom,
bomb,
yes.
well.
Yeah, because I mean, he was a peacemaker, even in his family. Because I grew up in a family, like my mom's family were all educated and they were incredible, loving people. So I was extremely close with my mom's family. And half of my dad's family were the people who actually caused a lot of trouble to mom and dad and us as kids. So, I didn't have that kind of support. But, in hindsight, when I look, I actually had the perfect challenge and support from from the family dynamics. But back then, you don't see that until later on when you learn so many other things about life, including the wholeness of life, that those are both essential for you to develop into a healthy individual. So, my dad was always like promoting education, promoting equality, and being peace. So, whenever there was a war in my dad's family, he was the one trying to make everybody heal and have this conversation and create peace. So, I inherited that from my dad. But also, mom, she was very truth telling. She wouldn't have it. And back then, women were really abused by a lot of male people in the family. And my mom was no exception. If the dinner wasn't there at 5 o'clock, one of my dad's siblings will just hit her. And that was back then even acceptable. So, you grew
Right.
up with those traumas that you don't really realize until you come to England and somebody you see
This is
that's
not
not the
normal.
right way, correct. But when you don't have that awareness, you perceive it to be normal.
Hmm. Yeah.
So this is why I love learning, Carms, and this is why I love traveling. This is why I love meeting people because through observation we can learn about who
Oh,
we are,
so
and we
much.
can learn the truth about whether we learn something a good way or a bad way.
Okay, so
Because if you don't have a great mirror,
how did your mom
so
handle the
this is
news? Just to
later
live
on
that.
after my dad passed away, basically. And you know, when I first, because by then I've received so many recognition professionally. I did, you know, all of my university, my degree, my followed tech, and a lot of diplomas into investment into my growth. By the way, so she was very proud mom, and by this time my dad already passed away. And when I told her I'm gay, in her old-fashioned way, she thought that was just another diploma that I received in my life. But I did not realize that. So I went outside, and some evil people, again from the family environment, after I left the room back in Macedonia in my house, they told my mother what that meant. So, you know, when,
So you
when I
told her, but
came
she
back,
didn't receive the message
she
as
didn't receive the
intended.
message. Bless her, by the way. And then when I came in, she, you know, she started shouting and saying all sorts of horrible things, by the way, in the spare moment,
Uh-huh.
which then I talk about in hashtag loneliness this moment, which drove me to consider to commit suicide. Because
No.
my love for my mom and for my parents was so big that I did not want to disappoint them about who I am. So, and this is something I share the
And you would have
story for those
prepared that
people.
for so long as well, and you still
Yes,
took it that hard.
yes.
Yeah.
You know, the hardest part that I've come to understand, Carms, it's not the battles with other people, it's the battles that we have with our own parents, and
Mm.
that acceptance that we seek and we desire to be one with the very same people who gave us life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for those people who want to dive deeper into the story, I recommend them to read my book, hashtag Loneliness, the Virus of Modern Age, because I go into the 12 cycles of my life that at one hand, they really destroyed me, but at the other hand, rebuilt a new identity, new authentic identity that takes a lot of process behind and a lot of help, a lot of learning, a lot of transformation, a lot of healing, and a lot of seeking and determination for you to invest in the greatest asset you will ever possess, which is you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So your how long did it take between dropping the bomb to your mom to her accepting that and you guys good now?
A year. I mean, she passed now, so you know she passed in
Right. I'm sorry to hear.
2017, but this happened in 2012.
Yeah. That
So
must
it's
have been a very
basically
tough year.
so. I think it's like, you know, for people who wants to go deeper, I had this spiritual experience in the mountains just before I was attempting to commit suicide. And that voice, which was such a powerful voice and an experience that I had in the mountains in North Macedonia, I came home and I said to my mom, Mom, you can kill me, you can do whatever you want. You gave me life, but as of today, I'm going to live my life as I am.
Mm.
And, you know, I was prepared for anything, by the way. And they tried to put a gun on my head. Some of members of the family, they tried to blackmail me, they tried to beat me. They did all of that. I picked up my passport, came back to England, and I
Oh,
was
you told them
determined.
face
I
to
said to my
face.
mom, yeah, yeah, yeah. I told my mom, I said, Mom, we always had love. I love you. And I know the time will come when this love will take over what other people say about me. Because that was really what my mother's struggle was, what other people were saying about me. It wasn't really about me and her.
Right.
So I
It's the
kept those
face of the
conversations.
family.
Yeah, so I kept those conversations going. And a year down the line, I felt in my heart, my mom is back. And I remember I always used to surprise her when I used to go back to Macedonia after the war stopped. I never told my parents when I'm going there. I loved surprising them, and they loved it too. So I felt like the time has come for me to go and see my mom. So I didn't see my mom for 1 year. So, and within those years, I used to talk to her. And we used to have a lot of fights over the phone, but the fights was only about me being gay. There was nothing about anything else because we never had those things. We always had this incredible love. And deep down, I knew that our love is stronger than her judgment of who I am. And then when I arrived in Macedonia, I remember it like today. It's like, you know, I had the first
Were
Sony
you
Ericsson
fighting so
phone.
strong because you had a partner with you? that you were fighting for that
No,
love?
no, no. That was nothing to do with that. Her
Mm.
thing, I'll tell you in the story, by the way, why that was. So when I came to Macedonia, I had this first Sony Ericsson camera phone that came back then.
I had one too.
And because I work in tech, I always had the latest tech with me. So, and I keep the phone and I open the door in my house in Gostivar in Western Macedonia. And my mom, in that same very moment, she was watching Harvey Milk, the movie, which is, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's
Sorry, what
about the
was the
gay
movie?
rights. Harvey Milk. It's a
Oh,
very famous movie about LGBT
right. Hmm.
in San Francisco. The riots, the first riots about gay rights in San Francisco. And she was watching it and she was crying. So as I opened the door and I'm filming her reaction, she looks at the movie and I look at the movie and I said, oh my God. And I'm looking at my mom and she looked at me with all of her eyes of tears and she reached out and she was like, come here, you're my son. I love you so much.
Hmm.
And that was the closure, that kind of where love takes over of any judgment. So in that moment, after hugging and crying and her caressing me and keeping her in her lap and telling me how much she loves me, we had this conversation. And she went like, I never was homophobic. The only thing I'm worried is who's going to take care of you after I'm gone. Because the
Oh,
world is very hostile towards people who carving their own path and they become authentic. And because you have my kindness, my love, and my integrity, you speak your truth, and not everybody is ready to hear the truth. And that for me was another closure I had with my mom. And I always knew that I never wanted, first and foremost, as a child, I always dreamt I'll be the one who will send my parents off when the day comes, and I'll be the one to put them in the grave. And for how the universe worked together when both my parents passed away, I was there in Macedonia putting them to rest. So for me, I always wanted to be authentic with the people I love the most. And it wasn't about the world anymore. It was about embracing me for who I am. And, living in England, people don't have those judgments. You may have a very small proportion of people, but
mhm.
most people nowadays, they live their life
Yeah.
as they are for who they are. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty about our world, to be able to embrace our differences and actually live as authentic individuals, making our own contribution in the form we are here to give to the world.
Wow. That's beautiful, Tony. Thanks for sharing all of that. Uh, and time is flying by too with all those cool stories. So before we close out this conversation, which we didn't really get to talk about your book yet, or maybe or have we indirectly do that? Yeah, Climb Greater Heights. What inspired you to write that book after, you've written 6 other ones already?
Well, first of all, as I've been in business now for 14 years. So because my work evolves over the years and I integrate everything I learn, I always knew, because since a kid, I had these business skills that I never knew how they're going to help me later on in life, because my mission was always to be a CIO and be working for these big tech companies and do incredible work, which I did.
Yeah.
And I managed billion-pound technology transformation programs for public sector and private sector. So I achieved those dreams that I had as a kid. But then when it came to the crisis in 2008 to actually when the financial crisis happened. I had another massive breakthrough that my mom knew before I did. So I started really filming my parents. I wanted to know about their life after all of the things that happened. And I started filming them on camera. And one day when I was probing my mom about the bedtime she had with my dad, she turned around to my dad and said, one day my son's going to write books. But I brushed it off. And
What a
7,
beautiful
8,
seed she planted.
yes. So that was 2002, 2014. 12 years down the line, I wrote the first book, A Path to Wisdom, how to live a healthy, balanced, and peaceful life. So I really wanted to create a methodology that people can use to embrace the material growth and spiritual growth together. So that also included business, included leadership, and I wanted all of those problems in the corporate world to be able to be solved through integration and through alignment and through healing. Because when you help people heal, they can perform incredibly well. They can raise their productivity, their performance, the energy in the company, and also the output and the success of the company. So I really wanted to bring everything I've learned and I've experienced into the corporate world. So I created a method called Alarm, which in essence means being able to listen to all of the things that body speaks to us, at the same time listening to our soul. And how do we integrate those across the mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationship, our leadership and social life, and wealth, by the way? How do we bring it together? So I wrote A Path to Wisdom, became a bestseller, sold a couple million copies of that book, and I started my business, my entrepreneurial journey. And since then, I wrote #Loneliness. Then I wrote Fit for Purpose Leadership, where I talk a lot about burnout and stress in leadership. Then I wrote Novum 10, which is a collection of poems that I wanted to write. And then I wrote The Unfakeable Code during COVID. I actually I wrote how when we wear those masks, we can create those situations like COVID and pandemic and the kind of a comet of, I would say, backlash of the problems we're experiencing as a result of what we went through. So this is all around linking around authenticity and leadership. So then I wrote A Path to Excellence, which is a 8-step methodology and a formula for you to go through 8 cycles of life, including, for instance, rebirth, regeneration, focus, and philanthropy. And how do you go and evolve through 8 cycles of life for you to climb and to unleash the potential that you came into this world to do? And now Climb Greater Heights is because, like, according to Forbes, only 4% of businesses ever reach the 7th figure. And I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in business as a force for good. On the other hand, 82% of businesses fail due to poor cash flow and lack of strategic growth and planning. And this is where my Climb Greater Heights was created, training back in 2009. But it back then was focused more on psychology, healing, relationship, love. Now it's embodied all of the growth I've done in business for other people who are into business to keep and accelerate that growth, and how all of the things you mentioned about me, how I created them. So I put that into intelligence into a 12-step methodology. And the other part is like 80% of time in early stages in business, most people spend in the business, not on it. So, you know, all of those statistics, and for instance, here in UK, 72% of entrepreneurs struggle with mental health, struggle with anxiety, with burnout, with feeling isolated and being alone in their business. So I wanted to bring how this homeless man reached Hollywood, how he inspired a lot of clients in Hollywood, how I went from being this tech guy who didn't care about any of the fame or anything like that. I was just doing work, and I still don't, by the way. Sometimes I meet very famous clients who come into the session and I don't even know who they are. I just treat them like everybody else. And you know, I was working in Bora Bora with a very, very famous client, and you know, I brought my partner, and he was in awe how I just treat everybody the same, and they love that about me, the kind of safety, the kind of exclusivity that I provide, and the kind of expertise I provide. So Climb Greater Height was bringing a unique methodology that I used for 14 years to go from 0 to 7 figure. And also how I use the same methodology to help others. You know, in the decade now, I helped all of my clients collectively generate over £1 billion in sales. You know, and I helped clients form partnerships. So the documentaries that I got involved came as a result of partnership. I won a partnership award in UK, you know, creating those partnerships that become fruitful. So that's how I created those documentaries. Then basically it's how did I make all of those books? So all the knowledge that I gathered of writing books, bringing them to bestseller status, and everything I had to do to actually make an impact globally. And through all of this, in 14 years, we reached over 150 million people now. So, and this is just me and my PA. You know, so when you commit, when you truly commit, and when you truly commit your mouth and your pocket, meaning your money, into something that's meaningful to you, and you go beyond excuses and you ask yourself every time, where do I get the wealth to get the best expert to work with me so I can become the best? That's where you could truly deliver. So Climb Greater Heights answers a lot of those questions and the steps you need to take and continuously to take to reach the level of success you are capable of. So
Is
it's
that book
literally a
is
call.
is that book for people that's already in business, or for someone that's like, even if they're starting, they would still reap the
It's
benefits?
for both, by the way. So the reason being, if you are in business, you can use the methodology to overcome any plateaus in the business and to start taking your business to the next level, because in there's also a chapter about how to utilize AI and start to navigate the business world with AI. So it's basically whether you are somebody living 9 to 5, a professional, and you say, okay, I'm ready. I want more freedom. I want more wealth. I want more, contribution into the world, and I want to employ people. I want to build something. I want to solve a problem. I have this idea. I want to bring it into a product. This will take you through all of that. And if you're already a business owner, it will really transform your business and you inside out.
Is your PA helping you just with admin, or is your PA like heavily involved in the business side as well?
No, she does. Well, she does a bit of both, basically. So she came to me as a client about 2014. So that's 11 years now. So she was going through divorce. So I helped her divorce with love.
Yeah.
And she got a good divorce settlement, but she had 2 kids, young kids, and she didn't want to simply sit at home. So she approached me and said, Tony, you've changed my life in 3 years that I never thought I would end up divorcing somebody with love, somebody that hurt me, and now we have a better relationship as parents with our kids. You healed our entire family. And she said, I've been thinking about it. I want to just do some work for you, just as a complimentary to thank you, because I gave her some discount, and when I give that, I don't really expect anything back. I just give it because I want to help
Felt right at
somebody.
the time. Mm.
And she started like that, and she started really reaching out to all of her friends who needed help. She started bringing them into a business and starting, being able to promote my events and my work. And a year down the line, because I paid her commission from that, she received a very good salary just out of commission. So she works with me, but she actually gets paid only through commission. So basically, she both does admin work, and also she manages all of my interviews, my podcast. She reaches out to celebrities, to people who actually need an expert, and they value the expertise an expert can bring into their life. So she does a bit of business development and admin work, but she's so inspired because, frankly, she reads all of my work, her children, and still she's my client. She still works with me once a month. She has a private session, and she's never stopped for 10 years.
Wow, that's awesome. How cool
So
is
she's
that?
embodying, so she's able to speak about my work through her own experience, which people relate to.
Yes.
So I'm
Wow.
very grateful for that relationship we formed, and we still have that boundary between client and her as my PA, and she respects that. She has access to everything I do, and every month we're working on different things, and she built herself a good business just working with me,
Whew.
and she's got
That
all the
is
freedom in the world.
very cool. All right. So for everyone listening that wants to reach out to you, where's the best place to find you? Which platform or which link?
So the best way is tonyselimi.com, TonySelimi.com. And in there, they can find all the links to all of my social medias, contact form where they can reach out to my PA to book a consultation, or for those who wants to come, because I do like weekend training in London, or 5-day or 10-day around the world private exclusive Climb Greater Heights training, which is completely tailored to the individual's needs or couple's need, or if there's a group of business people, 5 or 10 people. So those are very exclusive, small training retreats that I run anywhere globally in beautiful locations. And they can follow for like incredible content. They can go to Amazon, I have my books in English and Spanish, and soon are being translated in other languages. So there's a lot of resources in there that can do self-learning. And those who are ready to accelerate that, by all means, they can reach out to my PA, and we start with a consultation. Every first engagement with me is through consultation, where I ask very powerful questions to see why they want to invest and why they want to go into this work and what is it they can use it for. Because for me, it's very important, because this work brings you a lot of power, and not everybody can use that power as a force of good. So I select my clients very, very carefully who I work with, who I bestow this kind of wisdom that I give them incredible power to do incredible, great, good things in the world for themselves, people they love, and the world.
That is amazing. All right. Thank you for jumping in, Tony.
Excel in life, live your purpose, be free.